Hello, welcome to a new episode of Colors and Flavors podcast. I hope you are doing well. Happy February. It's a month where we get to see that emphasis on romantic love. So, yeah, I know not everybody is quite pumped about it, but if you are, please do celebrate. If your partner loves this season, please do something special, okay? Because you love your partner, you would prioritize them and celebrate things that are dear to them. So, happy new month, happy love month. This month on Colors and Flavors podcast, we'll be having a special love series, Love with Colors and Flavors. And I'll be addressing, things that I believe we should all pay attention to when it comes to our romantic relationships. This episode in particular is going to be about money and work conversations that you should have while you're dating. So I've called this 9 lifestyle choices about money and work to consider while dating. These are important conversations I believe you should have with your partner while you're dating to help you both, know what you think about these areas of money and work, and be sure that you're on the same page while you're dating and even as you prepare towards marriage, so that there are no surprises in future that you could have avoided or resolved at this point. Okay, so let's get into it. So 9 lifestyle choices about money and work to consider while dating. Number 1, spending. Okay, what is your spending habit like? What is your spending habit like? What is the spending habit of your partner like? Okay, it's important that you ask these questions. What do you guys spend on? How much do you spend on certain things? What are the things that you consider essential spending, and what are the things you consider luxury spending? What does your partner think about things like that? Okay, let it not be a situation where you see a particular amount as something that you can spend on, enjoyment, or on new makeup, or hair, I don't know, wigs and stuff like that. Meanwhile, your partner has a problem thinking you're spending a whole lot on things like that. You want to be sure that you both have a similar view on what's essential and what's luxury, because you will earn money, and by God's grace your income will grow. So you just want to be sure that you're not having friction as to what someone considers essential and what the other person calls luxury, or if somebody is not someone who spends a lot and thinks the partner spends so much more money. So yeah, what is your spending habit like, and what is the spending habit of your partner like? Be sure that you are both comfortable on how you spend money, or comfortable how you spend money. The second area is in terms of savings. Savings. Not everybody is good with savings. Some people don't believe in the necessity of savings, which may not be the best approach to handling money, right? So if you are someone who believes strongly in a savings culture, and your partner on the other hand does not think it's necessary, it's worth having proper conversations about. Because if you both are planning to get married, which I believe is something that you are thinking about as a Christian dating couple, you want to be sure that when you are married, you're not going to have an issue trying to convince the other person to save money for the future, or save money for certain big purchases, or just save because, yeah, emergencies do happen. So how is the saving culture of you and your partner, and is it in a similar point? Like, do you both see savings the same way, and also how you save? Because when it comes to savings as well, there's some people who save a whole lot more than they spend, maybe out of fear or the just previous experiences. So they hoard their resources. Is different than just saving because it's a good, money practice. So have those conversations, and please ask questions so that there are no fights. And if there's a potential for a conflict to arise, you can actually do something about it early on. The third area to have conversations about is investments. How do you both perceive investments? Okay, I know it's something that is quite trendy at this point in our lives and in our generation. Everyone is encouraging you to get financial education, to put your money to work. And these are, very important. It's great advice. But you want to be sure that both you and your partner agree or have similar views when it comes to investing. So, first, on your perception of investing, do you both actually believe it's important? Or do you both think, oh, it's not necessary? What do you guys think about investing? Secondly, when it comes to investing, will be what is your risk appetite like, both for you and your partner? If you're somebody who is risk averse and your partner is someone who loves to take risk, you want to be sure that you're comfortable with that, because when you do get married, your resources would be combined, right? So you don't want to be bothered that, oh, my partner is somebody who loves to take risk, and I fear that they're not going to manage our investments properly, or they will just go do something that you think is crazy, but then they believe it has a potential for higher returns in the future. So you just have these conversations early. And I'm not saying one side is bad or one position is bad and the other is right. I'm just saying, as a couple, right, as a unit, you want to ensure that you both agree on how you're going to manage your finances. How you're handling your finances currently is a good indicator of how you will manage your finances when you get married, or if you do get married. So you want to be sure that you are comfortable with the way you perceive investments and your risk appetite level when it comes to investment. If you're with somebody who is already a huge risk taker, it probably points to how they're going to take risk with investments because they hope that it would yield a higher return. So just have these conversations and ask. Now, number 4 is when it comes to borrowings. Okay, so borrowings is one that I know that people have divided opinions on, right? So if you're somebody who doesn't think it's good to take loans or borrow money, right, and your partner on the other hand believes like, oh, take loans as long as you repay them, you just want to be sure that, again, you both have similar views and you're both comfortable with each other's perception when it comes to borrowing. So what do you think about borrowing? What does your partner think? When it comes to borrowing as well, you might want to have conversations on, okay, what do you think is a good reason to borrow money, right? So depending on where you live, so for instance, people who live, say, in the UK or in the US or Canada, countries like that, where there's a mortgage scheme, right? When they do want to buy a house, they typically take a loan from the bank. After paying a down payment, they take a loan from the bank to finance the purchase of the house. So that's borrowing in a sense. So you might want to have conversations on, okay, what is okay to take loans for? Loan in itself might not be the bad thing, but what is acceptable for you to borrow for? If someone else believes that, oh, you can borrow to buy a new phone, you can borrow to buy a new jewelry, and whereas you on the other think you only borrow when it comes to necessities, you just want to be sure that you are agreed on what is essential and what the purpose of borrowing can be, what the exceptions to borrowing can be. Another thing when it comes to borrowing would be talk about your debts, right? So is any of you currently owing money, whether school debts or business debts? Talk about it so that you both know if anyone has any debts that you might have to take on when you do get married, and what has been the repayment history on that debt. Have they been repaying their debts as and when due, or are they somebody who owes money, builds interest on that loan? Just be sure, because your credit history will rub off on each other in marriage. So please have these conversations, ask questions, and be sure that you are comfortable moving forward with whatever conclusions that have come up from that conversation. So yeah, that's that on borrowing. And now, not to number 5 would be in terms of generosity. So yeah, there are people who are big givers, and of course the Bible encourages us to give, which is good, but there must also be wisdom to it. There are times where you give sacrificially as well, so that's all understandable. My focus here is ensuring that you ask questions and have conversations about this with your partner. If you are dating somebody already who you know is a big giver, a generous giver, please don't expect that would automatically change when you get married. Okay, so have that conversation early on and say, oh, I think you probably give maybe too much or too little, and this is what I feel about it, this is what I feel. Ask questions, just be open. Okay, don't pretend. If you're somebody who loves to give, let your partner know, early on, so that when you're married and you decide to give a portion of your income, whether to help people or to support other people, it wouldn't be a surprise at that point. And if you're uncomfortable with the generosity of your partner, whether they don't give as much or they give too much, I believe it's important that you express your concern now rather than waiting till you get married. So, generosity is an important area to discuss while you're dating. And now, number six on money would be in terms of your personal preferences or habits. So, personal preferences and money habits. And I'll discuss a few things under this area. And I just categorize them under personal preferences because they're not necessarily things that have maybe a hard line on what's right or wrong. People just have personal preferences and personal money habits. But as a couple or as a dating couple, it's important that you discuss them and be sure that you're aligned in these areas. So, first, under your personal preferences might be what you consider as acceptable sources of income versus what your partner considers as as an acceptable source of income, e.g., what's their view on betting? Do they believe like, oh, if you're hoping to cash out on a big thing, it's okay to bet on sports betting? If you're uncomfortable with it, right, this is the point to say it. If they're doing it now and you're not complaining, it would be weird for you to get married to them and expect that you can now tell them to stop doing it. So if you're uncomfortable with it, this is the time to mention it. And if it's not something that you believe you can keep on with the rest of your life, then it's worth deciding the future of your relationship right now while you're dating. So what's acceptable? And then when it comes to sources of income as well, discuss your what would I call it now? Your culture of making money. Do you believe you do anything to make money, or do you believe that there's certain things you do not do to make money? There are certain lines you don't cross just because you're trying to earn a living. Please have these conversations, discuss your boundaries. Also talk about things like contentment. What do they believe contentment is? Especially as a child of God, you understand that the word of God is your standard for living, right? And the Bible teaches us to be content in whatever situation we find ourselves. So if you've been with them long enough, how do they act when they have money versus when they don't have as much money? How do they feel? What's their perception of their worth? Is it based on how much they have, or is it actually based on who God has made them in Christ Jesus? What do they think about greed? Okay, are they people like, if you're part of somebody who will just like excuse people's greedy acts, just be like, oh, they're just trying to earn a living, so maybe it's not really bad what they did to make money? If they say things like that and it makes you feel uncomfortable, please address it at this point. Okay, so talk about their views on contentment, their views on greed, share yours as well. Another area when it comes to personal preferences would be discussing boundaries on money matters. What are lines that you would not cross for money? Okay. What are lines you would not cross to keep money? Okay. Talk about it, hear their opinion, share yours, and be sure that you are aligned and heading towards the right or the same direction. Another thing I would say is talk about your expenses. So I'm talking as a couple now, right? So as partners, you probably already go out on dates. Talk about expense splitting in the sense that what do they believe about you sharing expenses as a couple or as partners? Is the person you're dating believing that, oh, a man should provide all of the things that the home needs? Or are they somebody who believes that, oh, both a man and a woman, or a husband and a wife should jointly contribute to the welfare of their house? Please talk about things like that now. Again, I'm not trying to give a position on one is wrong, one is right. People have different things that influence, their preferences or their money habits, but it's important that you discuss it. That's the focus. Have conversations and be sure that you are aligned. So how do you split expenses currently? If you've been on multiple dates and it's the same person that pays for the dates, it's probably worth bringing it up and say, oh, hey, I realized that I've been the one covering our dates. Not complaining, but I just wanted to be sure what you think about splitting expenses as a unit or as partners and get their opinion so that you'll not be surprised when you are married and they say, oh, sorry, oh, my money is my money, your money is our money, and all of these things. And this isn't even about the male or the female, it can happen to either of the gender. So please have these conversations. And I think finally, when it comes to personal money preferences, one conversation I believe you should have as partners is also discussing the purpose of money for you as believers. What do they actually think money is for? What do they believe God has given you resources for? Okay, talk about it now so that when you decide as a believer to put your money where your faith is, and your partner on the other hand doesn't think, oh, you should have to invest so much of your money in the things of God or in the agenda of God, it would not be a case of where you guys are now being surprised on how you spend money as regards your faith. So what's the purpose of money to them as a believer? Who do they believe is the source of their wealth? What do they believe is the source of their wealth? And how do they, who do they actually believe should direct how they spend or how they manage their money? It's important. So the purpose of money as believers. So these are important conversations I believe you should have about money. I'm going to stop here for now. There's going to be a part 2 of this episode. And in part 2, I'll discuss the other 3 things, the other 3 lifestyle choices about work that I believe you should consider while dating. And I'll also address give you general advice on how to handle differences that come up. So after having these conversations, you might realize that there are some things that both of you are not aligned about. I'll give you some tips or advice that can guide you in resolving those differences, or at least making a decision for the way forward on your relationships. I hope this has been helpful, and I trust it has been. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What other things do you believe people should discuss when it comes to money? Especially if you're newly married, if there are things that came up when you started, marriage, and realized, oh, we should have talked about this before marriage when it comes to our money. Okay, so please do share in the comment section. If you have any question in particular about what I've talked about so far, please leave it in the comment section as well of this post. You can follow the link in your episode notes, and I will do my best to respond. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Stay tuned for part 2 next week. Cheers.